Hello, New Zealand. Welcome to Straight Talk. This is our 70th episode, and tonight we're going to do a pop quiz with our panellists to find out where they stand on some of the most controversial issues since the beginning of the year. We ask, where is New Zealand's war on woke? Is Christopher Luxon really in trouble as Prime Minister? And if time, we'll find out if any of the panellists have a tattoo and whether any of them have any regrets or regrets. Now, let's check out who is on the panel. And on Saturday was International Women's Day. So as I did the roster for Straight Talk, I deliberately put all women on the panel for tonight. Unfortunately, we also have Alfred. And that was because Mel Taylor swapped with you, Alfred, because where were you? You were in, was it Ethiopia?
Ethiopia, yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay. And so if you wouldn't mind, just identify as a woman tonight and we will do fine. It is allowed. So anyway, nice to have you, Alfred. Bit of a letdown, by the way, Hurricane Alfred. I couldn't go to Brisbane on Friday for a conference because of you. And in the end, you're a bit overrated. You were downgraded. Still lots of flooding anyway. Anyway, he's jet lagged. Christine Rankin, first time for 2025. Nice to have you back. How are you?
I'm very well, and it's lovely to be here, Bob.
And you just celebrated a very special day on International Women's Day. It was your birthday. So that was an interesting intersection, wasn't it? International Women's Day and Christine Rankin's birthday.
Yeah, every year on my birthday, International Women's Day. Most appropriate.
Yeah, very good. Sue Reid, how are you, Sue? Have they found the arsonist yet in Masterton?
No, and there's absolutely no updates, nothing. I don't even know whether they're looking for him. Honestly, it's quite bizarre. It was very serious.
Yeah, it was only some churches. I mean, it wasn't a crossing or anything.
They're all about the love and embrace him, and
yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Incredible. It's gone incredibly quiet. The media have gone absolutely to sleep on that one. And Happy New Year to Susie Miller. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. That's got to be my latest Happy New Year, but Happy New Year back to all of you. Good to be here.
Beginning of March, and we're saying Happy New Year. All right, let's have a look at the image of the week, and it had to be this one from Trump's Congress message to Congress. Just a great statement. He says, our message to every child in America is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you. That was going to be my first one. And then I came across this one at the weekend where Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, very liberal, very left, actually admitted that men competing in women's sports is deeply unfair. So obviously he must be standing for some political office, the fact that he's exercising some common sense. Video of the week goes to the captain of Moana Pacifica, Adi Savia, who after their win over, was it the Hurricanes, ended the media conference with this. And listen, guys, even mentioned the three-letter word sin.
Hey guys, before I finish, because with us we always start with God, I'd just like to finish with God with a prayer. Siki. God, our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day today. We thank you for the opportunity to use our gifts that you've blessed us with to put smiles on people's faces and bring people together, Lord. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your protection over us, Lord. I pray that you protect our brothers that got injured tonight, Lord. I pray that you have your protecting hand over them. I pray that you have the protecting hand over their families, Lord, and heal them, Lord. I pray to protect all our families, the people in this room. I pray that you bless us as we travel home and you bless us safely, Lord. I pray that you forgive our sins. In your beautiful and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. There we are. That's a way to finish a media conference. Haven't actually seen that before, but well done, Adi Savia. That's what happens when you win an important game. Well done. Okay, we're going to get into the quickfire questions because it's most of you, it's your first week on. I want to just cover some of the more controversial topics from the beginning of the year. And I'm keen to get, this is going to be a challenge, isn't it? Short, succinct answers on the following topics that we've covered. So you've got 1 minute max. We've actually got a little counter in the right-hand corner. Can we just try one of those, Gordon? So you're going to see that. That's your counter. And then I'll give you one of those when you get to 1 minute. Okay, so we've got to get through these because we've got 6 topics to get through. Okay, so Alfred, we're going to start with you. The Coalition wants to introduce legislation on a 4-year parliamentary term. Yay or nay?
Well, first of all, since I got 60 seconds, I hope I'm not going to be punished for being a man competing in a women's panel. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to say, but it's an honour to be here as well. Hey, mate, it's only 48 seconds gone. How would I vote? I'll vote for yes. I think we do need to have 4 years. 3 years is not long enough. But the challenge is that you have to get 75% of Parliament to agree to that. So there's got to be a consensus, and it's the only reasons why it hasn't been done before. So 4 years would be better, I think, for both the government and governance. The problem is that people are afraid because they think that if you get a bad one, you're going to have to last the distance, right? But, the reality is that I just think we have to suck it up. We have to turn around and say 4 years is better than 3. Let's go for it. So my vote is yes.
Okay, that was a terrible answer. Right, Christine, yes or no, 4-year parliamentary term?
Yes, with trepidation, and exactly as my friend Alfred has just explained it. Golly, if we'd had another year of the recent destruction, and I'm talking about the last government, I don't think there would have been any coming back. It's a hell of a struggle now. So I am scared of it, but I agree we've got to bite the bullet and take the good times with the bad, I guess.
Okay, Sue?
I've changed my mind, as a woman can do. I've changed my mind. Definitely need to go to keep it at 3. The proposals that they were had on the table about changing it to 4 was very messy and untidy, and I just think we have not got the government structure to cope with the change. Keep it at 3, especially under MMP. I'm under the time.
Yeah, well done. 2-1. Susie, you got the casting vote?
Cool. I'm against 4-year terms with MMP. Yeah, for the same reason. Like, I think voters fixate on party leaders and party slogans and not the local MPs. So you often get MPs coasting into Parliament on party votes alone because people don't know how to vote. I look at Manurewa, and Arena Williams is a ghost until election billboards pop up every 3 years. So you stretch the term to 4 years, and these unamazing MPs, they just pocket an extra year of pay per cycle. So no from me.
Okay, and I have the casting vote. It's a no, so that's it. It's a no. Sorry, team. Second one, new citizens and arrest laws, which means you can take out shoplifters when they're shoplifting. Alfred, that's got to be a yes for you, surely.
No, it's not. It's a no, because we're not there yet. And you're going to have all sorts of problems where you're going to have good intentioned people who will try to stop an offender. People are going to get hurt. We'd be better off turning around and actually government's helping to subsidise security support that could wrap around there at the moment, even at my local countdown. I've never seen it myself, but someone can turn around and walk out basically with a trolley full of shopping, and the security said that we can't touch them, we can't do anything. So not even the security can do anything. So I just think it's not a good idea. You've got to make sure that we've got people who can actually either stop or deter them. So it's a no from me.
Christine?
Oh, look, I think the new legislation will let them stop and deter people, and I just can't bear what's happening at the moment. It's embarrassing and awful, and it's what the population has asked the government to do. They never get it right according to everybody. Everything they do is wrong. I think this is a step in the right direction, and I agree that there will be issues around it. But when you look at what is currently happening, where no one can touch anyone and you just wave them off as they do whatever they do, that's not acceptable.
Okay, Sue?
Yeah, I will probably use my full 60 seconds here. I've worked in this field, and I've done a citizen's arrest. I've worked in retail, and this law is just to tidy up what we needed, what companies need to be able to stop people. And this law will stop when people do attempt, like a very famous case in Christchurch last year, when they do attempt to stop someone, that they will be backed up by the law. It's very much changed in the time that I was working in retail. I had changed my mind about chasing after someone because it is a more dangerous atmosphere now and more volatile. And I have been punched in the head before by someone in the store as well, and reconsidered that. So it's dangerous, but it's there for the people who will attempt to stop someone, and it's there to back up what's needed, filled in those gaps.
Perfect timing. Susie?
Yeah. Well, at least I have protection now if I decide to clothesline somebody. I'm kidding. I would never. I'm a pastor. I'm really good. I'm actually joking, but I understand that my researcher said this will allow security guards, to use sufficient and appropriate force in apprehending shoplifters. I think maybe shoplifters know that they can get up to $1,000 and walk out with it. And I've seen so many. I've been witness. I've rung the police. I've stood there, and managers and owners have said, "No, you can't do anything." So I would like them to have more power. It's crazy. It's too much on the perpetrator side.
Yep. Okay, well done, Alfred. None out of 2 so far. You're not going too well. Now, Winston Peters. Some people say New Zealand, some say Aotearoa New Zealand, and some say Aotearoa. Winston Peters says the name of the country is New Zealand until we have a referendum on it. Alfred, what say you? Agree or disagree?
I don't think that it's the wrong thing to do, because it's not an either or. It shouldn't be just whether it's New Zealand or Aotearoa. I mean, for a long time, many people have been saying it together. So why are we having a referendum to say it's either this or that? What we should be saying is that we should unite them together. Can I just remind you, Bob, that the national anthem was not changed by referendum. It was changed because, at a rugby game, at a match in Wales, where Hene Wehe Mohi basically just started singing it. Now, was she right? We don't know. Well, the reality is the New Zealand Rugby Union changed it so that it became part of what they sang at all test matches. And you know what? The nation changed. So referendums are not the only way to be able to get a message across. And like I said, I think it's wrong to say, is it New Zealand and Aotearoa? We should be saying that actually, why can't we put the two together?
Christine?
Yeah, I agree, the two together. I've got no problem with that. I don't like it being changed to something else alone. Aotearoa shouldn't be on its own. Don't feel comfortable about that, but I'm very happy for them to be linked together and interspersed about which one comes first.
And I guess when you're overseas and you say Aotearoa New Zealand, people say, "Oh, what's the Aotearoa?" And you say, "Oh, well, that's one of our national languages." So there's a bit of a teaching moment there as well, whereas they would have no idea if it was Aotearoa on its own. Sue?
Yeah, I use it interchangeable, but in our formal setting, as in Parliament, we're making laws, it has to be together. It's known as New Zealand. If someone's using it solely on its own, then it should be within a complete and whole speech in te reo, so in its entirety. But good thing to have a referendum on. We should be able to have multiple referendums when we have votes, when it comes to elections. But I use it interchangeably. I try to use as much te reo as I can, and I'm growing in that. And as you say, it's a lesson for our language. But in a formal setting, while it hasn't been officially changed, like in Parliament, then use it together.
Okay, and Susie?
Yeah, the same. I use whatever name fits the occasion. I didn't realise you could do both. I guess that works because it rolls off the tongue pretty easily. I'm very happy to use Aotearoa in most settings, and I'm equally happy to refer to home as New Zealand too. I'm quite unbothered because I don't believe this should be a political divisive issue. I think bringing it up as a referendum does kind of not help our nation's kind of divided stats right now. I think we're a nation with 3 official languages, and I think that's great. It's a strength that we are this diverse in our communication.
Okay, I'm impressed, ladies. You've been well under the 60-second mark. You too, Alfred. Well done. Let's go in reverse order this time. Susie, sorry, you're going to kick this one off. Are you concerned about drag queens in libraries? And if so, how would you tackle this issue? Susie?
Yeah, very concerned. I thought about this scenario, and I thought maybe a group of mums with poise singing Waiata, honouring Te Atua, would have struck a nicer chord with the public. I don't know. That's hypothetical. But after all, there was a man who makes a living out of doing unspeakable things in nightclubs, and he's doing what us mums normally do, right? read to our kids, have them sitting on our laps and reading to them, and they're our impressionable kids. And I like what Brendan said on this show. He said this is completely wrong, when we're right to call it out. It's wrong to normalize the sexualization of kids. It is wrong to expose our kids to sexual deviance, knowing what these people do, like in their outside time. And I think Destiny can do better, and they will. I think the church can do better if we take the attitude of Daniel's friends faced with death by a fiery furnace. They remained respectful, they maintained their composure, they were above reproach in their conduct, but they were courageous and they stood up for what they believed. And we do have to stand up.
Okay, I didn't want to do the buzzer earlier because you were quoting from the Bible, and I just thought that wouldn't sound very good. Sue.
Well, I'll use less time then. I've spoken about this before. Look, I think I wouldn't enter into the area because it's changeable and it can be unpredictable. But outside of the library, I would protest with a placard, with the poster of that particular drag king or queen, whatever they like to call themselves, and say, as a question to parents, are you okay taking your children in to be read to by this person? Is this okay with you? And because it's their, like you were saying, Bob, it's their right to take them into these, they're the parents is probably a better way of phrasing it. They're the parents. Well, question this. Hang on. This is what this person is. And are you okay taking your child to that? So that's where I would move it, and also challenge the funding of as a ratepayer, as a taxpayer. Challenging where I can at local government, council level about the funding of these things.
Well done. Christine?
Well, I've talked about this before. I just think you leave our babies alone. I try not to be judgmental about people in that situation. I think their lives are very difficult and very sad often. I don't make judgments about them, but I don't believe it should be in libraries, and I don't believe it should be with babies. And I don't believe the aggression of a pile of men are good for those children either. I think Christianity and the Destiny Church let itself down by acting like that. We all get clumped together and everybody thinks that's how we all think and act. No, it's not. I think it was disgraceful, and I know that in my life I've never been affected by somebody telling me what I can't do. I've been affected by people like you, Bob, and you never treated me like that. So I'm totally against that kind of protest. Don't believe it makes an ounce of difference. It pushes them further into what they want to do. And when you feel excluded, you're going to act as though you're excluded. So no, I'm disgusted. I think it was absolutely the wrong approach. And I don't make judgments about people like that. It's not my place.
Okay, well done. And I was too scared to ring the bell on that one. Alfred?
Yeah, well, the thing is that, we don't judge these people. But the thing is that when they start to enter into our normalized spaces of family, when they start saying it's okay for us to do what we do, and in fact, as I said, we should be reading and telling kids things that they were normally sort of doing when they're, whether it's on a pride parade down K Road or just doing what they do. That's fine. That's their own choice that they make. But they're now crossed the line where they're now starting. And what annoys me, people in the council who feel that it's okay. To me, these are adults behaving badly when they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be allowing that to happen. And then all of a sudden, you've got heightened emotions now that are starting to. Because look, I got to tell you, the media have gone hard on this, but they didn't do the same thing with Posey Parker. There was a 75-year-old grandmother that was punched in the face, and I tell you what, Leo Malloy was the only person posting pictures of it. So, yeah.
Okay, well done.
And I agree with that too.
Next question. Government says it wants to review tax laws around charities. Should churches be concerned? Susie, you're a pastor. Should they be concerned?
Yeah, I think the church should be concerned. The ramifications of policy changes have the potential to significantly decrease what we can deliver. More importantly, I think the government should be concerned. They should be aware of what they'll have to replace if we aren't able to do what we do. Like, we provide valuable and accessible support to all of our local communities. And then, for example, in the last 2 weeks, Our church has provided restorative programs, parenting programs, community hui's, a funeral, a significant birthday, fitness sessions, youth programs, just all of that. Every single day our church is being used. And so that's for like next to nothing for the people that need the facility. So I'm just saying, how's the government going to cover all of that when that's just my church? The nationwide, we are doing so much.
Sue?
Yeah, I think churches should be worried, and they shouldn't be flippant or stick their head in the sand about this issue. That the government sending the message to churches that you don't matter. They just are not friends of the Conservatives, and they, like Susie said, they have their place in society. They have a place in our community. We've seen churches attacked. And not even defended, not even follow up in the media just in the last 3 weeks. Terrible message to send to churches.
Yeah.
You have a place, you have a freedom to believe, you have a choice to be part of a Christian church, and that they do good things. That government shouldn't be the ones who do it all. It should be churches, charities, and government that do it to target the need. And religion is a charitable cause. The advancement of religion is good for a nation. Don't turn churches into just see them as social workers in our community. That the actual message and religious cause has a valid place in our society, and that should be respected.
Well done. Okay, Christine.
I think churches should be worried, but I'm hoping that the criteria will be a very fair and balanced one, but I'm not sure about that at all, because when churches are doing what is described, I think they have the right to remain exactly as it is. You know that some don't, and they purport to, and they don't, and it's not just churches, it's other charities as well. And, I'm part of a charity, and we're worried too, because only a small part of our work is funded by the government. But if we have to pay tax, we're in real trouble. So I absolutely understand it, and I hope there is some balance in it. But I do believe that you should have to prove that you are actually doing work that saves the government doing it, because I don't believe everyone is, but the majority are.
Actually, that's a very good question, Christine. I was just thinking about that. Hospices, they are some of them are charities, aren't they?
Yes, we are.
And
We're all
so they've
charities. Everyone
Yeah.
is a separate charity.
Okay,
We're
so
not
you've got
connected
the
with each
charitable
other.
shop. You've got we've got a hospice shop just up the road from us. So
Yes.
that's a business income that will be caught by the tax, won't it?
Yes, it will. And so that would be absolutely
Yeah.
tragic for us. I only get
Yeah.
28% government funding to run the magnificent service we do. My shop
Yeah.
is my lifeline. Well, we've got 2 shops. They're our lifeline. If they do this to us, it will be a major dent in service delivery. So I understand the concern of it. I do.
Yep. And they haven't thought about Greenpeace, who probably do business to raise money for them, and Inside Out, who are selling stuff for their cause. Goes both ways. But you only hear the media talk about sanitarium and churches. Alfred, should churches be concerned?
Yeah, but we need to move quickly from concern to actually then starting to tell our story. As a previous minister for the community and voluntary sector, I mean, we have around about 1.2 million volunteers in the country. Roughly about 250 million hours, voluntary hours, are given up and down this nation. I mean, the community and voluntary sector is the backbone of our communities. One of the things is that people said that, advisors said to me, Minister, why are there so many churches? I said, well, it's pretty simple. Jesus decided to sort of, summarize 300 Mosaic laws into 2. And he said simply this: love God, love your neighbor. And so churches are knowing the fact is that the more they love God, the more they realize that actually they're about loving other people. 80% of our social services, Bob, come from a faith-based foundation. And so people don't realize is that, and as Susie has just been saying, so many of our churches, right, are actually giving voluntary service, compassion, care. It could be a soup kitchen, it could be counseling, it could be daycare, it's hospice, it's so many different things there. And we need to start pushing back at this whole rhetoric, you're just a religious organization. Well, yep, religion or faith is very much a part of who we are, but it's those sets of values that have actually taken care of our country when the government can't and shouldn't. So that's what we need to do.
Okay, I'm just Googling to see if you were the Minister of Charities when we were deregistered. Hang on. Were you the Minister of Charities when we were deregistered, Alfred?
No, you do this every time, right? And you haven't gone out on public to basically apologise for accusing me of being the minister that deregistered you when I wasn't. Maybe I could have challenged you, but no, I didn't. But
Okay.
no, I wasn't the minister.
I forgive you, Alfred. I forgive you. Right, final topic, lunches in schools. Been a massive furore. The media just can't get enough of it. Is it a storm in a teacup, or has Seymour failed on this one? Susie, I know you're on the trustees of a school that probably benefits from these lunches, are you?
Yeah, we do, but more from a delivery sense, in that we get to involve our parents and get to involve. We've got a marae that's helping us out with lunches, so, and they're really good. Which obviously, there's all the media about. It must be slow news day because well, who cares? Well, I do care. I think David needs to maybe review the funding to different regions, because obviously, I think some people don't need it as much as other people do. And I'm just speaking from the point of view of my kids' high school. There's a huge opportunity for kids to learn cooking and administrative things and time management, and so there's a whole group growing in their hospitality skills, so that opportunity would be missing if we didn't have lunches in the school. So it's a good thing for a lot of schools, but you have to take it case by case. That's my view.
Sue?
Yeah, I probably generalise here when I say I think they probably should dump what David Seymour's program and target it, probably like what Susie's saying. That sounds like really great, teaching skills and things. And I think you probably need to pull it back from this one size fits all and just target the need and get on with it. Really, the media they're just boring with the whole delivery with this. Oh, it's not filled up, or it's too hot, or it's not hot enough. Why does a child have to have a hot lunch anyway? Why is it? Why are they getting hot lunches? It's
Okay, Christine?
not the government's role.
It's a disgraceful orchestrated campaign, and it's absolutely obvious. I can't believe some of the coverage of it. It's just painfully embarrassing. And yes, it does need to be targeted. Every school in the country does not need it. And if you don't like what you're getting, perhaps you should make your own child's lunch, which most of us have done, often under very, very difficult circumstances, where you feed your children before you feed yourself. But I've worked in that area too, and most people don't, because many things come before feeding their children, and it's suddenly become the government's responsibility. It just absolutely drives me mad. I mean, how we could, Labour put a picture, the last Jan Tinetti put a photograph of a lunch that she said was disgusting. Now, if a National Party member or any part of the coalition had done this, it would have been in the news for days. But she put up a photograph of a lunch that was a Labour government lunch. And she said it was disgusting and nobody should be forced to eat it. And then she had to take it down because she found it was her own lunch. Did we cover that? Did the media? No, they didn't expose that at all. It's just a game with the unions and everyone else who's left, and it drives me mad.
Finally, Alfred.
Yeah, I think the reality is that the coalition government are left holding this, but the ideology is that they don't agree with it. And I agree with the comments that have been made that, it should always have been a targeted approach to help those in need when there's a desperation. But what happened is that Labor came along and basically tried to mandate it and make it universal. Wrong idea. Now, what's happened is that the issue is that David Seymour's taken this on board as the Associate Minister of Education, and he's tried to obviously cheapen it and make it easier and more affordable. So I think they've got it down to $3.50 a lunch. But when you don't have people who are capable of being able to manage this nationwide, that's the reasons why it's going wrong. And so I think they need to bite the bullet and say, hey, we're going to change the whole thing, make it a targeted approach, have the right people, who can serve people like Susie's school over there in Manurua, help alongside schools. And we would We would support something that works with communities rather than just serving it to them.
Okay, well done, team. Fantastic. Let's quickly check some of the comments here because there have been quite a few coming through. Just regarding the election cycle, yes, this is Jessica, how do we have a vote of no confidence built in? Kiwi Six Truth says, I think keep it at 3. Too much damage can be done in 4 years, like what Biden-Harris did in 4 years to America. Kevin says, no, if you're a good government, you'll get voted in again after 3 years, and then you'll get 6 years. Elliot on Aotearoa says, the word was beautiful until the academics and activists destroyed its beauty. Regarding drag queens, Warren says drag is for car racing. Dean says, ask the children who scared them the most. That was regarding the protest. Catherine says regarding charity, Sanitarium will stop funding Weet-Bix triathlon. That could be true. The African Sheep says the irony is it's the so-called centre-right that want to do this to churches. That is the ironic part. Tim says churches should be concerned. The reason it's happening is the media lobbied the Prime Minister to drop tax-free for churches, and he agreed with the idea. Christine says, when do the government announce who will be taxed? Well, they're doing a review. IRD are doing a consultation. But interestingly, there's going to be some sort of statement in the budget in May. So that sort of suggests that, well, they're doing the consultation, but is anybody listening? Regarding lunches in schools, Ricky says, should be aimed at the kids who need the extra support, but not every kid. Sorry, just don't see it as part of the state's role. And Paul says, Marmite sandwich, absolutely yummy. I did think that was ironic, team, that Christopher Luxon used the example of just give them a Marmite sandwich because you know who makes Marmite? Sanitarium, and he wants to tax them. So I just thought that was actually very funny. But anyway, let's go on to the next topic. When is New Zealand going to have a war on woke? Trump has taken the sword to wokeness, DEI, critical theory in schools, radical sex education removed from schools. There's only 2 sexes now in the US, ban on gender transitioning of children, ban on men and women's sports. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, Chris Hipkins can't define what a woman is, and Luxon, David Seymour, and, well, I was going to say Winston has done nothing in any of these areas except for the removal of the RSE curriculum. Now, Winston did come out with removing DEI, but it's a private members bill, so it may not even get drawn out of the ballot. But there's no decision on sports. Puberty blockers are still being prescribed. Governments and companies are still ramming down wokeness and DEI. So where is New Zealand's war on woke? Christine, I know you'll be full on this. Where's New Zealand's war on woke?
I don't know if I am full on it because I just despair. We're nowhere. I think there have been some slight changes, to be fair, but it is certainly nothing dramatic. And it feels to me as though the country doesn't actually want to change a lot of those things. You look at the pushback the current government's getting on everything they touch, and some of it's been quite mild, really. I just don't know what to believe anymore, but I have no hope that major things are going to change. Okay.
Alfred, are we going to have a war on woke?
Well, the only time we're going to have a war on woke is when people are hungry enough for change. And at the moment, there's not a hunger. There's messaging that came in the last election that people were saying, and it's typical of a centre-right party, is saying that the economy is the answer. Well, no, the economy is a tool that's used to be able to enable a community, a country to be able to do what it needs to do. But once it starts losing its values, then that's when things start to shift. I was interviewed on with Barry Soper and Heather Duplessis-Allen, and they said, why did you leave the National Party? And I said, I didn't. They left me. They left me and a whole lot of other conservatives because what they started doing is drifting. And at the moment, while I do support a number of the values and the approaches of the National Party, you know, we've still got a number of people in there who still believe in all of these things that we don't agree with. And so we're not going to have a war on woke until we have leadership that has the courage to say, actually, that's not good enough. We're not going there, and we are going to change it. And I can tell you this, I've said this to you before, Bob, we've got people that are inside, even in ministerial roles, right, who absolutely believe in the very things we stand against. They believe in the RSE education. They believe in this whole thing around transgender rights and so forth. So we're not going to have it. We're not going to have it until the country is hungry enough, and they're going to say that unless you abide by a certain set of values that we believe are important, in other words, uphold the value of the family, then come those 3 years, I'm saying 4 years, but anyway, it seems like I voted out by that, but 3 years. Let's do 3. Come the end of those 3 years, where are we going to be? And at the moment, my question is, are we hungry enough as a nation for change?
Okay, Susie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think attitudes are changing very, very slowly. And so many still don't know what they're allowed to think and say. Like, well, people are like, oh, will I offend this marginalized group? Am I part of a big problem? Why is Trump so mean, yet he kind of makes sense, And I think conservatives around the world, yay for America, are emboldened, but I think everyone else is lost. I think liberals just don't know what to do anymore. They're like crying in their cereal. But we have to remember that most of our friends and neighbors still don't know what woke means. We have to be more helpful in educating the general populace who come searching for answers, like Alfred saying, who are hungry. We educate them in a non-emotional, as much as possible, logical but deep way. And I think we're dealing with a traumatized public. That's what I think we have, who are constantly being fed a fear-filled, angry narrative. And we have the solution. We've got Jesus, who didn't overthrow governments and regimes in the usual way. He didn't war like even his disciples wanted him to. He taught us to serve. So the war on woke, or to me, the clarification of truth and lies, to me, it's a long game, and it's at grassroots. It's with conversations and long form content and educating people, conversation by conversation, person by person, family by family. And I think that's the way we keep going. So I do have hope, as long as we keep each other in hope and keep the faith.
Okay, Sue.
Yeah, I agree with Alfred. There is absolutely no appetite for change when it comes to our government at the moment. And that's the concerning. And then I think that probably reflects on why Luxon's gone down in the polls and hasn't had that traction. Because we actually, when you look at it, New Zealand voted for a coalition of change to deal with some of these things. It wasn't all about the economy. No use having a good economy if we've got things that our values are challenged, our values are disintegrating, and we have erasure of women's language and all of that, our culture changing. So I think we would say probably the way it would come would be to follow the money. And I would say that at the moment, New Zealand, being in the pickle that it is, that the money's not there for some of their woke projects, for some of their pet projects. Why are they funding these drag programs in libraries? That's wasteful money. And I think that we could push back on those as saying, well, it's wasteful, but I don't think they're even there yet. And they're like oblivious to this worldwide change, this worldwide pushback from conservatives, and that we're fighting for good and right things and what is common sense, what is good and decent. And I don't think it'll happen with this leadership. I don't think it's on their radar at all. The only way would be that I say just the funding is just not there. But you were saying before, Bob, it's the great march through the institutions. We've got huge battle, and that's why we exist. People like us, we're unashamedly conservative, and we'll continue to put our head above the parapets. We'll continue to fight on these issues, and to say, to give a voice to those families that are affected by some of these woke, some of these ideas that have the education. Things that have affected families. So I just think they just don't have any appetite, and that's frustrating. And that's why I'm just like fed up with the coalition that's, we've got to do the economy, we've got to do this, and we've got to do that. Well, hang on, some other issues matter too.
Okay, well, we're going to come back to that in a sec, actually. I was just looking for the tweet from Winston Peters. He said, a number of people have recently been asking what we mean when we say woke. Very good question. Definition of woke. He says, a state of awareness only achieved by politically correct fascists who are dumb enough to find injustice in everything other than their own behaviour and believe they have the right to harass and lecture others about how they should think. And 2, any out-of-touch pearl-clutching virtue signaller who cannot define what a woman is. That is what we mean by woke. So that was his tweet. He was pushing back quite strongly on that, which actually leads us into our next topic. And it's this article that was in Newsroom, which is a bit of a lefty website, and it's by Peter Dunn. Don't know if you remember Peter Dunn, Alfred, you might. Christine, I'm sure you do. And he's written an article called We Don't Know Who Luxon Is or What He Stands For. Now, in the article, he basically says that the problem is that, you know, he was a kind of a business, 2 personalities, but he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and the rock is Winston Peters and David Seymour is a hard place. And so he's coming across as uncertain. Now, just before we deal with that issue, Peter Dunn's probably the last person who should say we don't know what he stands for, because he took United Future from 8 seats down to just his seat in 2 elections because he flip-flopped on virtually every moral issue there was. And you can see my blog on that. But let's just have a look at the latest polling, and this is just from today, that says that Labor and National are pretty well within the margin of error on equal points, and Chris Hipkins and Christopher Luxon are pretty equal for preferred Prime Minister. Interestingly, the Greens are down a bit, and ACT is down a bit as well. Te Pāti Māori had a bit of a bump. Now, just comparing that with an earlier poll last month, which was One News, you can see 34-33. So all it's done is today it's swapped around, 34-33. So you could say neck and neck. And, well, in the One News poll, Luxon was slightly ahead. In today's one, they're even. So, look, it really does beg the question. And actually, just before I come to you, I'll come to you first, Sue. I saw a quote from Professor Grant Schofield, who's a professor of public health at AUT. He says this, and I thought it was a really great statement. He said, trying to appeal to people on the left who will never vote for them at the cost of not delivering to the centre-right seems to be the major issue. I thought he summed it up in one sentence. Anyway, Sue, why do you think Christopher Luxon is not having a good time at the moment?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. He's brassed off both sides. He's brassed off the left. He's brassed off the right. Mm-hmm. He seems to think that this going down the middle is a winning formula. It's not. He doesn't come out and stand up for what does he stand for? So he's a middleman aiming for mediocrity. I heard somewhere in the recent days that he was New Zealand's version of Malcolm Turnbull, the Australian Liberal Prime Minister that failed spectacularly very quickly. And I think that we can really compare Christopher Luxon to Australia's Malcolm Turnbull. And he's not straight up. Now, I would, if I was his advisor, I'd say be straight up and talk with a focus. Don't use buzzwords and give a clear direction. Now, I saw more of that in the interview with Simeon Brown on Q&A with Guy Espiner on Sunday morning. He was straight up. You knew exactly where he was coming from. He had the clear answer or the answer, and he was direct in his. He even pushed back and said, "Is it wrong to have an opinion?" I've never seen Luxon do that. So he tries to stay. It must be his advice. His advisors are in his ear, and it causes you to not respond just in your own personal way and put your personal stamp on it. So I think he's in a lot of trouble. Yep. National's in a lot of trouble with Paula Bennett even coming in as the president of National Executive, and it's like, you're going in circles and you're going backwards. This is not a winning formula for you. You have gouged your Conservatives. You've gouged those people that are, and farmers, rural community, and you have gouged them, and you are not representing them any longer. And this is just not going to pan out well for him. And it's, you know, with Luxon going ahead, it's like, well, Hipkins surpassing him, I go, well, that's just madness. You want, you know, Hipkins, you know, hasn't changed, hasn't said, given any new vision for Labor. So your opposition is still the left, and you've got, if you partner with Hipkins, you've got the Te Pāti Māori, and you've got the Green Party as well. You are going way back over to the left. So it's quite Luxon's just got to forget this centre business, centrist road, and say, right, start anchoring some things to the right.
Well, it may be a protest vote. I mean, he must be surrounded by some lefty liberals based on the response that he gave to that woman who was concerned about preschoolers identifying as the opposite sex.
Yeah,
and the letter just said he's an LGBTI supporter. So, Christine, what do you reckon?
Look, I honestly believe that people want to hear what you think. They might not like it. They might not like you, but you don't have to like a leader. You have to respect them. And, you know, in his previous roles, he has done very well. And for people to say only career politicians know what they're doing is nonsense, because you need that experience to face the problems this country is facing. Someone has convinced him, or a group of people, to act and talk the way he does, which is an absolute disaster. You know, you can hate Trump or you can love him, but you damn well know exactly what he's going to do and what he believes in and what he stands for. And look at the vote that he got to be returned when everybody said that it could never happen. I think Luxon needs to take a bit of a look at that and know that to answer questions directly is really, really important for a politician. It doesn't always make you popular, but if people respect you, they'll vote for you. And how could anyone look at what's happened to our country and want that group of people back running it again? It will be the end. People are leaving this country in droves. What on earth is it going to be like if that's what we get back? I don't think there'll be anyone here. The last person needs to turn out the lights. There will be no recovery. And how can you make that comparison? Because in Air New Zealand, he wasn't loved. He was a hard leader who actually got very good results. What the hell is he doing? I don't get it.
Okay, Alfred, I mean, you've served under Key and then when Bill English took over as Prime Minister. I mean, it's just par for the course, isn't it? The Prime Minister is always going to be constantly under attack. So is this overboard? Is there any merit to it, do you think?
So one of the things I just want to share that you can see the character of a person when you often see them the way they respond in different times. I tell you that all of us here know people who have had to fight for things in their life that they believe in. And when you do, there's a certain character that displays itself. What is that character is? Number one, you'll protect the people around you. The number of times early on in his leadership where he threw his own caucus members under the bus. He didn't take the time to understand. I mean, Maureen Pugh, the media said, oh, look, you know, you've got a climate change denier, you know, and he didn't even take time to actually say to the media, hey, first of all, I'm going to take time to listen. No, he didn't. He responded, well, she needs to know. She needs to get on the wagon. She needs to read homework. And that's a number of cases where all of a sudden the warning signs were there. The second one was that when he was asked the question, when he just became the leader in 2023, he was asked about the abortion issue. Well, I tell you what, here's what he said. He started backtracking. And instead of leaning in, he leaned backwards. He was asked the question about abortion. Is abortion tantamount to murder? I was furiously texting a friend of mine who was in there to say to him, ask the journalist, what's the definition of murder? Taking of an innocent life. Now ask them, what's the definition of an abortion? But they don't want to do that, right? Why? Because they're not fighting for the things that you believe in. And if you stop fighting for the things that you believe in, what do you end up doing? You become populist politics, you become centrist, you just want to appease and please people. And so I want to finish off with this, is that because since Susie's quoting the Bible and she's a pastor, and so I better seem a little bit more spiritual, otherwise you think that, Bob will say that I'm a heathen. But, in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, there's a saying, that there's a passage in chapter 20 that says this, if you follow the Lord, then he will make you the head and not the tail. And at the moment, Chris Luxon is becoming the tail. He's not the head. And you can only become the head when you fight for the very things you believe in. When you turn around and you call out bad behavior, you turn around and say, actually, no, I don't believe in this. And while I may not agree with abortion, yet people can have the rights, but I still hold my position, right? You can do that. You can turn around and make a strong stance, just as Simeon Brown has done. He said, well, my track record is on the record, right? My voting, my values are on the record. But right now, that's not what we're doing. It's very clear. And at the moment, he's in trouble. Why? Because the fact is that he's not the head, he's the tail. And he'll only become the head when he actually turns around and says, you know what, I'm going to fight for these things that I believe in. And at the moment, we could see the disaster. Like you said, Christine, that's not what we want. We don't want to go back to where we've come from, but we could get there. Again, if we, as a nation, we turn around and say the answer is not in the economy, the answer is in a set of values and in a leadership and leaders who will take the climate of the country and say, here's the things that are important. Our family, our faith, our future, just some really simple messages, and get on with doing the job that they've been voted for.
Yeah, I think one of the really interesting things, coming to you in a sec, Susie, one of the really interesting things that the media just will not report is that if you look at this graph, despite all the media furor around the government, National has actually gone up almost 2 points. But you will not hear that in the commentary at all, which is kind of interesting. They'd rather just focus on, well, the fact that Hipkins seems popular. My theory is that the leader of the opposition in New Zealand at the moment is not Hipkins. He's useless. The leader of the opposition is actually Trump, because people are looking at Luxon and they're saying, wow, we voted for Luxon. We thought he was going to do this. We thought he was conservative. We thought he was going to fix a lot of this social engineering and woke stuff. Look at what Trump's doing. And so actually Luxon's biggest enemy at the moment is Trump, because of some of the policies that Trump did in the first month. Anyway, that's my theory. Sue? No, Susie. Sorry. Two Sues on the panel.
I wish, Alfred, that you were in government. I wish you were beside Chris Luxon. You made the comparison, I think, Christine, that Simeon speaks with conviction and strength. That's because he connects back to church. He connects back to Christianity. He has a strong support base of faith, and he's not ashamed to say that. And I think Chris Luxon is ashamed of whatever Christian faith he connects back to. He needs someone to set him back and stop appeasing other religions and just, celebrating all of them in a big way. And then, oh yeah, happy Easter. Come on, mate. Like, who are you? Who are you inside? Like, who got you where you are today? And so if I was beside him, I know I had strategic suggestions here. I said, one thing that I don't think he can lose on is if he got up there and said, let's protect women. There's, publicly back science and say it clearly. There are two genders. Even if your own ethics wobble, read the room or just scroll X, because the gender confusion hype is fading fast around the world and people aren't buying it. And I think the silent majority in New Zealand would back him. He wouldn't lose any votes, because the votes that he's trying to appease, they go for Greens anyway. They don't go for him. But everybody else would be going, yes, he's finally, like saying it how it is. He wouldn't lose anything, and he would lock in the centre right, who are done with reality denying nonsense. I think My other thing with him is his obsessive talk about saving money and building our economy back, and yet he's committing more to the climate agenda than Australia is, so far as I know. Is he serious? Like, you're saying you're going to save this much, but you're going to give it all away to Paris? Like, come on. And the one thing that he was confident about late last year was Israel. And I'm like, come on, like, where are your advisors on this? Do you know how big Israel is? Do you even know what you're talking about? That was the wrong move. So, come on, be strong on the things that matter and just be political on the things that you don't know about. Because, get some better advisors. Alfred, can we get you in there as soon as possible?
Christine and Alfred, I'm keen to just ask you, I mean, because you've both faced the media and sort of the onslaught. Christine, I sort of watch Luxon and I sort of think he's been given so many talking points that actually he's not free to just answer just in a natural way and speak from the heart. He's kind of trying to match the talking points that he's been given. Classic example was that interview with Mike Hosking, where Mike Hosking just said, if Andrew Bailey hadn't resigned for physically touching a staff member, would you have sacked him? He just would not say the word sacked. And it went on for 2.5 minutes. And that to me was kind of like he's been given these speaking lines and he just can't speak naturally and from the heart and from his personal conviction. Is that the way it comes across to you?
Well, I hope he's been given those lines, because if they are naturally coming from him, we are in much bigger trouble, or he is in much bigger trouble than he would otherwise be. And if they are coming from his PR advisors, he needs to sack them and revise it really quickly. Although I did notice after that interview, I heard him interviewed a couple of times and he did actually answer some questions.
Use the word sack.
So I think it's actually sinking in. But, you know, when you've dealt with the media for a long time, you do learn the tricks of the trade, and they are to make sure your points are clear. You have 3 or 4 that you're going to say no matter what you're asked. And Winston is magic at it. They can ask him anything. He answers what he wants to answer. It might not even be on the topic they've asked him, but he gets his message across and he does it strongly. And really, he has come out as a statesman. I admire him so much at the moment. I think his performance has been great. And the Prime Minister needs to take a little look at him because he's doing it really well. I just feel so embarrassed for him. There's no need for this. There's no need for it. And I do think the fact that he's denied what was a very strong faith, even people who are not faith-based know that, and I don't think they like it. He's trying to prove that he's everybody's friend, and you can't be.
Yeah.
Can't be.
Alfred, do you think he's getting bad media advice?
Well, you can get advice, but at the end of the day, you're the guy in front of the mic. You're in front of the camera, and you have to decide. And you're the Prime Minister now. So you can't turn around and say, oh, I've just got a bad advisor. Right? Because the reality is that advice comes and goes, but you have to make your own call. And it comes from your own sense of integrity and character. That's why I said, when you fight for the things that you believe in, then you're very strong. You know, Christine, you're so right that the thing about Winston, love him or leave him, he knows who he is.
Yeah.
When you know who you are, when you know what you believe in, and by the way, Winston was raised with a mother who was a strong Christian woman, a praying woman. And he often, do you know that he often goes back to quoting from the Bible, Old Testament, and he's a bit old school. But, you know, it's either Shakespeare or Old Testament. Shane Jones is the same thing too. Yeah. At the moment, they're the 2 that I listen to the most. Why? Because they're very, very clear. People don't like them. Some people don't like them. But I think the clarity in which they say their views, they project their views, they articulate where they're coming from, it's very, very clear. And Luxon is in trouble at the moment. Because if he continues to do this, my fear is this, Bob, is that he'll get to the point where he'll say, right, I'm going to just be forthright now. But when you do that, when you try to become someone that stands for something, you often fall over because then it's not natural.
Yeah,
it's got to be something that you just know within your heart. And I agree with Susie. Turn around and say, you know what? We need to start getting some clarity here. I'm going to be the head, not the tail. We're going to start standing for women. There are only 2 agendas. You know, you just need to start going like that. And if people say that, oh, you're just trying to be Trumpian, I said, no, I'm just trying to be Chris. But more importantly, I'm trying to stand for the things that I know most New Zealanders, all New Zealanders believe in. And you That's what he needs to do. I don't know if he's there, but hey, the ball's in his court, not ours.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes very quickly, just doing this one for fun. So there's, not that one, this number. So there's a bit of tattoo regret going around. This is the one, no regrets, got the tattoo wrong, no regrets. This is the one by Justin Bieber. He actually got Selena Gomez's girlfriend tattooed on his arm, but then of course they broke up, so he tried to blur it. But apparently there is a trend on social media called tattoo regret, which is leading many to consider removal of their tattoos. And apparently it's a burgeoning business. I mean, as much as we see tattoo parlors around the place, and that's a massive market that's grown exponentially, tattoo removal has also exploded as well because of regret. Reasons for tattoo removal: relationship changes, maturity and changed tastes, starting a family, social perception, job requirements, poor artistry, desire for something new, or allergic reaction or infection. Simple question just to finish up with, team. Christine, I'll start with you because I know you've got tattoos all over your body. Well, I don't know that actually. I just made that up. Christine.
I'm glad you clarified that.
I'm going to get a clip around the head when I get home now from my wife. Christine, tattoos or not? And do you think it's sort of, really taken off, and is that good or bad?
Well, look, I'm very old, and while I was brought up in poverty, my mother had very high standards, and she would talk frequently about, you never ever got a tattoo, and no, I do not have one anywhere of any kind. And I conditioned my children in exactly the same way. But look, it is a modern phenomenon. People seem to be covered in them everywhere, and I'm not surprised it's going to change because a lot of them are very ugly. They don't appeal to me. I couldn't do it.
Okay, and that title down there was deliberate, tattoo regret. As someone once said, did you ever see a bumper sticker on a Lamborghini? And I guess there's some truth to that. Susie, I won't make any comment about whether you got tattoos on your body, but what
Thank goodness for that.
No, I'm the same. My mum would have killed me. I don't kind of like tattoos on myself. I don't mind tattoos on other people. I know Alfred's got a tattoo right across his back. It's John 3:16, and he uses it
really?
to
Come on, show us, Alfred.
every summer. Summertime, he's like, I'm going to tell people about Jesus, and he whips his shirt off. That's what he does.
Yep. Yeah, well, I know someone who's got a Bible verse just subtle down their arm, and it's just a talking point. But you wouldn't have a problem, Susie, with your kids getting, I mean, is it just us old schoolers that aren't sort of into it, but it's all thing now?
I'm grateful my kids aren't into it. None of the 7 have come to me and said, I want a tattoo, Mum. They have asked for, like, is it all right, to get one? And we're like, yeah, it's cool if, ask Jesus. But yeah, it's an external expression, often reflecting something going on in the heart, and so it's all good with me. I think it reduces your employability. I have to say, I think generally you're kind of not great in interviews, but mostly society's okay with it all. I just want in on the business that's removing it, because you said 3.72 billion in the next so many years. I'm like, let me in. How do you do that?
Yeah. Okay, when you talk to your kids, are you holding a Samoan jandal at the same time? I just wondered if that influenced their opinion.
It's a salu. It's a big
salu. Okay. Sue, what do you reckon?
Well, growing up in Australia, we just had ugly tattoos, so it was never something that appealed. I mean, I had parents who I wasn't even allowed to get my ears pierced until I was 16, 17, 18. So, so it's never something, they've been on my radar. Kids have never, it doesn't worry me if my kids wanted to get a tattoo. I would have said, they had to be 18. But I think the move to the cultural tattoos, I see them as quite, here in New Zealand, it's a whole different ball game, and beautiful cultural tattoos. I do like that. But, it's on lovely young skin, and, as a woman who's in my 50s, skin changes. And so I guess there's that, is it always going to stay in shape and the right way? So there might be regrets there, but not a big deal for me, Bob.
Okay. Alfred, don't take off your shirt. We know you got a tattoo, but is there such a thing as too many tattoos?
Well, first of all, no, I don't have a tattoo. But No, but in the comments of Once a Warriors, there was a comment that said that I wear my tattoos on the inside. So, so maybe that's what it is for me. I wear it on the inside. I don't have a problem. None of our family actually. So I think we're all of the same ilk, culture, where our parents yeah, there was no tattooing done. And none of my children, Mock and I, none of us have it because it's just not something that identifies. I think a lot of the tattooing at the moment is all about identity. People trying to say this is who I am, and so people can see, they can tell the story. But if you can't literally tell the story yourself, right, then it makes it harder. So I don't. I'm not against people getting it, but personally, I believe it's important to identify, know who you are, be able to tell your story, tell your genealogy, tell where you come from. And that's often where tattoos are used to be able to reflect a moment in a person's life or tell a story about where you come from. But I don't think you need to do that as long as you know who you are.
No, I had a friend who flew with his son all the way to Barcelona to watch a Barcelona match and watch Messi play, and he's got tattooed on his arm the seat that he sat in at the stadium, which when you sit in a stadium seat, which seats 70,000, it's quite a lot of numbers, seat, row, section and all that type of stuff. But anyway, it's a great memory of a dad-son time. So there you go. Anyway, look, just before we go, Simon O'Connor is actually back in the country, and he will be back in the country by Thursday night. And so he will be with us on Political Playback on Thursday night when we discuss some more of these issues. Ladies, you did a fantastic job. Christine, Sue, Susie, well done. Alfred, you lipstick up well and did a great job being on the women's panel for International Women's Day. And I'm sure you can define what a woman is because you lived with one and you married one. So well done. That's it for tonight. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next Monday night for Straight Talk at 8 o'clock. Until then, have a great week.
Yeah.